Did you guys know that soil is alive? Hi guys, my name is Maddie and I will be teaching you all about soil today. Before we start, do you know what soil actually is? Soil is the upper layer of the earth in which plants grow in. You might know this as dirt. Just like there are people living above ground, there are millions of things living below the ground. Some of those might include microbes, soil insects, worms, and soil fungi. Like that many things live below the ground. What do these living things do, you might ask? They break down some of the materials in the dirt to help provide some of the nutrients plants need to survive, just like you guys. Here are a couple pictures of some of the living things that are in soil. A microbe here over here are like super teeny tiny little things that you would have to see with a microscope or a magnifying glass. Right here is soil insects. Those are like little roly polies, but there can be lots of other kinds of insects. A worm, I'm pretty sure you all know what that is. And then this is soil fungi. It looks almost like a spider web, but I promise it's fungi. And then we'll watch a quick little video so you guys can see what I'm talking about.
We often think of as just dirt, especially when we have to clean up, is really interesting. Scientists would actually call the dirt in our gardens soil, and it's home to an incredible number of living things. Oh, that's right, Squeaks. We can see a few animals like earthworms when we're digging in the garden, and they're super important. They help the plants in our garden to get the air and food they need to grow. But there are other living things in the soil that we can't see with our eyes. We need tools, like this microscope, to see them. Let's give it a try.
Howdy up there. I had a feeling I was being watched.
Oh, hi! We didn't mean to startle you. I'm Jessie, and this is Squeaks. We're hoping to learn more about the kinds of living things in soil.
Well, you sure have come to the right place. Name's Grady. Glad to meet you. I'm what's called a tardigrade. Some people like to call my family and I water bears or moss piglets, but we're our own little group of living things. Emphasis on the little. Most of us are only half a millimeter long, about the size of a period at the end of a sentence. So we tend to get overlooked a lot.
Well, I'm sure glad we didn't overlook you. Would you mind telling us a little bit about your neighborhood?
Well, it would be my pleasure. The soil I live in is a mixture of things like water, small pieces of rock, and air. It also has a lot of what we call organic matter. That's our fancy term for things that either were alive, like the remains of dead plants and animals, or are alive, like me. I'm one of billions of critters that can be found in a single spoonful of soil.
Wow, that's a lot of living things in such a small space. There are about 7 billion people, but they're living on the entire planet.
And not only are there a lot of us in the soil, there's also a lot of different kinds of living things. We call the different living things in an area, it's biodiversity. The bio part of the word means living, and the word diversity means different things. And soil has a whole heap of biodiversity. There are more different kinds of living things beneath your feet in the soil than there are above the ground.
That's amazing.
What's even more amazing is how the living things in the soil and life above the soil are connected. Take the plants in your garden, for example. They're stuck in the ground by roots, and those roots also help them slurp up things they need, like water. But they also release stuff into the soil, like sugar. Microscopic living things, called bacteria, can use this sugar to grow, And in return, some kinds of bacteria release things that the plants need.
Well, that's a win-win.
And that's only one example. Other living things called fungi also work together with plant roots.
Fungi is a science word for the group of living things that includes mushrooms. It's kind of like how we talk about plants or animals. There are actually millions of different kinds of fungi, including the ones we see growing out of rotten logs when we hike, or the tasty mushrooms we like to eat. Just talking about fungi makes me hungry for some yummy mushroom soup.
Exactly. Though these fungi I'm talking about in the soil don't look like the ones you put on your plate. They grow in super thin strands that extend outward from a plant's roots. In fact, they kind of act like extra roots that help the plant pull things from the soil.
All right. Well, thank you guys for listening to my talk about soil. I hope you learned lots, and thanks for helping me learn about soil too.